Alrighty, I think we've got everyone we're going to get. There'll probably be some late joiners, but they can catch up on the recording. So thanks for making the time to come to the webinar today. I know you may have received it from us directly, or you might have received it from your Microsoft account manager. You may have seen it on Twitter or LinkedIn from the Microsoft Australia education team. Doesn't matter where you've come from, but hopefully you'll get some value out of what we're going to show you today. And at the end of the day, this is a platform and a product that's hopefully make your life easier within a school-based environment. So a little bit about us. So I'm not going to go into too long, but my name's Stuart. I'm the guy in the middle in the white circle with a beard. That's probably one of the best photos I've ever taken of myself. And myself, Nathan, and Damien are the founders of the business of Insync Technology. So we're a Microsoft systems integrator. We've got offices in Brisbane and Melbourne. We're trying to stand something up in Sydney. We've just got to find the right people. There's three main core parts to our business, which is our platforms business, which is also around Azure infrastructure as a service, enterprise mobility, security, system center products, and that sort of thing. We also have a productivity practice, which is mainly around Skype for Business and Office 365. As you see, we're using Skype for Business today. And we have an automation practice, which is around our identity and authentication platforms, automation and orchestration, which is what we're talking about today. So we have 5 gold competencies. So we're highly credentialed in the Microsoft space, and it's really proud of us to be able to have so many gold competencies, because it means we're doing the right thing by customers, and we're doing the right thing by Microsoft in terms of our certification and expertise. So a little bit about me. I'm a techo, so I'm a sort of a chief technical officer here, but I actually don't mind talking to people, which is quite rare in IT. I have a vast collection of Star Wars Lego. So I haven't got a picture here, but I have about 39 individual sets of Star Wars Lego. It's a bit of a problem, but it's not a bad problem to have. So I'm also a Microsoft partner seller. So what that means is I have a Microsoft badge. I go and help Microsoft staff present on different technologies and different platforms, and help customers through the journey of Microsoft technology and productivity platforms and things like that. So over on the right, we won the Microsoft Partner Emerging Partner of the Year in 2015. So that was a big moment for us, and probably the highlight of my career is winning that award in front of 2,000 or 3,000 people at the partner conference. So it really means Microsoft put a lot of effort and time into helping us as a partner, and we understand where Microsoft technology as a broader sense is going. But enough about me. I'll talk just briefly to the agenda today. So as with most things, we're going to summarize the problem that we've seen in schools, particularly in independent schools. We're going to talk about the current approach to ICT processes, and how there's a lack of automation of a lot of these processes in schools. We're going to talk to a solution that we have developed over the last couple of years with a bunch of independent schools, mostly in Queensland, but we've got customers in WA, South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, so pretty much most of the country. We've got independent schools running this solution. I'm going to talk to you about the building blocks, so what is actually underneath the hood. And then we're going to run through some demos so you can actually see the product in anger and what it would look like, and how it can make a measurable difference in your school environment. So we've got 4 demos. We've got a provisioning demo, which is automating the provisioning, onboarding and offboarding of users. We've got a Skype for Business demo in terms of managing Skype for Business for those of you that are using Skype for Business on premises or online. Our platform has a method of orchestrating Skype for Business actions. A big one we get a lot of interest in is our parent one-time portal password reset. That's it's a mouthful, but it's designed for a zero-touch experience for parents. So when you need to provide access to school-based resources via Active Directory, we can make that really seamless and easy, and reduce the overhead of your teams in managing parent passwords. So we've got that running successfully in a number of schools, and it makes a huge difference to managing that identity. Another big one we've worked out for a lot of schools is timetable sync. So a lot of the timetabling applications are actually completely separate to either the school management system or Outlook and Office 365 in general. So we have an integration between timetabling programs and into your Outlook client. So if you've got schools, students and teachers that are using Outlook to plan their days, communicate, collaborate, etc., we can now pull that timetable data into their Outlook client, so they know, they've got a single view of where they need to be and what classroom they need to be and what's their teacher, etc., etc. So we'll show you what that looks like as well. So if I had to define the problem that we saw in schools prior to building this this platform, was we had a lot of schools doing very, very labour-intensive manual processes in terms of the ICT back-end infrastructure. So it was creating accounts, rolling over, year groups, changing subjects, all that kind of stuff. It's a very manual, labour-intensive approach to managing identity and users inside your environments. So we looked at the problem and we said, well, what could we do? What could we build that would assist our customers in taking away some of this pain, so that you can actually redeploy your staff into more value generating tasks. It might be more classroom time, more exposure, running more professional development, doing some training, or actually implementing projects that are actually going to make a measurable difference in your school and your curriculum and outcomes for students, rather than just keeping the lights on and making sure Active Directory is healthy, etc., etc. So it boiled down to really stop doing things that you hate. So we really saw that it was an absolute hatred of a lot of these tasks. So hence we sort of but this idea bubbled up as we could build an automation product that would actually assist a lot of schools with doing these manual tasks and allow them to redeploy staff into other areas. So I found this Dilbert cartoon which said, basically I found a way to save $1 million by spending $10,000, and the typical management approach is, yes, it would come out of my budget, but the savings would go into someone else's. So really what this product is about is returning your time to you. So what you're going to do with that, the extra time that this product allows you to have. So the product is really designed to take away the pain of those manual processes and automate most, if not all, the common tasks that you see within a school environment. So if I looked at what we're doing today, this is a typical process of what a school looks like. The school enrollments, people entering the data into a student management system or a school management system, and that could be a variety, TAS, Synergetic, Maze, SAS, there's a few others around, and that's typically the source of truth for a school. So it's what is in the student management system, it's what people bill against, it's what timetables are generated against in terms of subjects, it's how the school gets paid, all that sort of stuff. So it is really, it is very important to the running of a school. So typically what happens next is a student gets enrolled, or a teacher or a parent gets enrolled in the student management system. Then you get a piece of paper that lands on your desk, or it might not even be that. It might be an email saying, hey, we've got a new teacher, student, parent, needs to be put into the Active Directory to authenticate against and provide that user some identity to access school services. So as there's no linkage between it, it's a manual process to do the Active Directory import typically, and it might be from a CSV or it might be manually. The user would then go and create, your teams would go and create that relevant user object, give it the correct permissions, etc., etc., make it a member of whatever groups it needs to be. All in all, a very labor-intensive manual process. Next, if you're using Office 365, you've got to think, well, I need to give this user some productivity tools. I need to give them an email address. I need to give them access to SharePoint. I need to give them access to OneDrive. So then I need to go into Office 365 and I need to go and find my user that has been created, and I need to give it the correct licensing and in order to activate that service. And that's typically your school SKU or your license number that you have purchased or gotten for free through Office 365 for Education. Make sure they've got access to the correct services. Again, a manual task. Next one is then potentially go and make some changes in Exchange. So, there might be some recipient policies or anything else that you might need to do. You might need to also, if you're not running email in the cloud, you might need to go and create that mailbox back on your on-premises Exchange server, for example. Again, that's typically a manual process. The next step would be create a personal folder. So that might be a G drive, H drive, T drive, whatever you might use. That's again another manual process, and apply the correct permissions to that personal folder so they can store it. A lot of schools these days are moving to OneDrive, so that does present opportunities and challenges in having that data in the cloud. But again, most people, that's a manual process. The next thing is building your class lists. So it might be based on a subject, or it might be based on some other criteria. Typically, you'd want to build dynamic groups based on that membership. So again, that's typically a manual task for most people. And also, they fall out of sync fairly regularly. So once it's created, it's rare that everyone ever goes and revisits it and updates it. So that's pretty much, it's accurate once and then never again. Next bit then might be to build a class timetable. So that's typically built in a timetabling application that's run separate to your school management system. Some have it integrated, some don't. But again, it's typically a manual step for someone to build that. So other common tasks that we see in a school environment that we wanted to try and solve was the concept of password resets. So if we could automate a help desk function for password resets, both for students, teachers, and parents, that was going to save a lot of labour, a lot of time spent dealing with service desk incidents on tickets, or people walking in the front door of IT saying, I've forgotten my password, particularly at the start of term, things like that. We've put in place a solution which takes away that pain. People can go to a portal, reset their password with knowing some criteria about their account, and reset that and receive, be able to log into their account without actually any interaction with IT. One thing was also we saw the common was the changes to classes. So if someone drops physics and takes up chemistry, I know I was horrific at chemistry, so I dropped that pretty quick smart. But I took up another subject. So I would want my system to basically, if I change subjects, I wanted it to automatically give me membership for the correct classes, update my timetable, etc., without me having to do manual intervention into doing that. Same goes for my timetable. If I've dropped physics and I've taken up chemistry, then I want the chemistry timetable to be represented in my my timetable, not have the physics subjects there. We also wanted to take away human error, so we wanted to make sure that humans, if a lot of issues are in schools and in corporations in general are from human error. So just the pure creating accounts, getting the wrong permissions, getting the wrong username, getting the wrong last name, wrong employee ID, all that kind of stuff. We wanted to try and remove any human error from the equation. Another one we got asked for was implementation of photos. So for a large school or a distributed school, photos were important to be able to identify both teachers and students. So that was it's been a request from a number of schools to be able to import photos programmatically into Active Directory and Exchange, and have that displayed across all of those different workloads. Another one which came up reasonably recently was the ability for relief teachers to provision relief teachers quickly, easily, and inherit the permissions of the teacher that they were relieving. So, for example, someone had glandular fever and you wanted to bring in a teacher for 4 to 6 weeks, they need to have access to all the same resources that school, that teacher would have, without having to go through and manually do it, and more than likely get things wrong, which then instigates a call to IT or an email or a service desk ticket, etc. We also saw a lot of schools taking up Skype for Business from a voice perspective. So they're running Skype for Business as their phone system. So being able to automate the creation when a new staff member, for example, arrives, they're issued with here's your phone number, here's your PIN code, here's all the other bits and pieces that you need to use Skype for Business, and that was all programmatically done from our platform. So the platform that we've built addresses all of these, and I'll show you what that looks like shortly. So we did a study on one of our schools, and it was a year 7 to 12 school in Queensland with about 800 students and about 100 staff. And they worked out across the 12-month period that they were spending about 2.3 to 2.5 hours per year on a student and staff member, just updating identity, making sure they had access to the correct tools, the correct productivity tools, the right distribution lists, all that kind of stuff. They were spending, about almost 2,000 hours a year on that environment, just managing the identity and making sure users were offboarded, onboarded, all that kind of stuff. So you can see, like as I've described those manual processes, it's not probably that hard to imagine for your school that you are probably spending 2,000 hours a year, or you and your team collectively, spending that sort of time and money on just doing really mundane common tasks. So effectively what we're saying here is, if we could put this in and we could give you 2,000 hours back of time, what could you do with 2,000 hours? Because I know everyone in schools is always like, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. This type of solution, it releases that burden and allows you to redeploy resources into to other areas. I think I've just covered that point. So yeah, what we built was the modern automation platform. So it's at its core, it's an identity and task automation platform. It's built on Microsoft Identity Manager 2016, so previously known as Forefront Identity Manager, and before that it was Identity Lifecycle Manager. So it's been around for quite a while, and it's deployed in some very large organisations, a lot of government, a lot of defence, a lot of universities, and a lot of really massive organisations that are using this to automate all of their identity and onboarding. So what we have taken is some of the smarts around a broad identity management and automation platform, and we've kind of modularized it and produced it really aimed at the school education market. So it's going to automate a lot of those identity common tasks, and one of the really big benefits is that because we're taking a live sync effectively from your school management system, we keep a lot of all the data and the users synchronized. So if a user changes in the school management system, we flow that right through all of the other platforms that are downstream from the school management system. So if someone makes a change in one place, it's actually replicated and displayed across all those other systems in a short period of time. One of the other great things is we've got a full audit trail, so we can see if anyone's modifying objects, anyone's doing things to it. There's an absolute empirical trail of data, so we can say, hey, you change this, don't do that type thing. So that's really valuable for schools. And it's really been built for the cloud. So one of the things we had to have built in was Office 365, Azure AD integration, OneNote provisioning, all that kind of stuff. Given the Office 365 is the predominant player in a lot of the independent schools that we deal with, it was non-negotiable that we had to support Office 365 and Azure Active Directory as a minimum. So we can orchestrate a lot of the back-end processes in those public cloud platforms from our platform itself. So if I had to look at conceptually what we're looking at now is we still need accurate enrollment data from the student management system. So if you don't have accurate enrollment data, then as the saying goes, garbage in, garbage out. So unless we have accurate, clean data from the student management system, we've done probably every school management system you can imagine. Some schools are really great at having clarity around their data, their student data that comes into the SMS from enrollments. We've also had other schools where there was 3 different people doing enrollments into the system, and they had 3 different ways of doing things. So it meant we actually had to work with them to clean up their data before we could actually use it. So there's actually a data cleansing piece that needs to be looked at before you even start a project like this. But yeah, we can't reiterate enough that we need to have the clean data from the student management system before we go any further. So what we do is then we can flow the data out of the student management system into Active Directory programmatically, automatically, based on criteria. So we can pull the user straight out of the student management system, format it how we need to in terms of username, structure. If you have a naming scheme, etc., we can adhere to that. We create users programmatically coming out of the student management system. Once that's done, we can go off and create the Exchange mailbox automatically. It's all done based on the criteria that you've defined before. And then we go, and once that user is synced to Office 365, after a period of time, we'll then go and license Office 365 user correctly. So based on the criteria that we've defined at the start. So if they need access to SharePoint and they're in the SharePoint security group, we'll go and license them for SharePoint, etc., etc. We then add the students to any security groups that they need to be a member of. That's done programmatically based on the criteria we started with. The next is we added them to the distribution groups that they need to be out of. It might be Year 8 English, it might be Year 9 Maths, whatever the case may be. I'm generalising, but you can see the concept that I'm trying to convey. The next bit is we can pull a class timetable in. So once we have a view of the student management data, we can actually combine that with a view of the class timetable, and then we can actually use all that data in what we call a metaverse, which is a database which consists of multiple data sets. So we can actually bring data in from multiple locations, and then we can have a holistic view of that in our platform. So next one is, basically the data is entered into the school management system, and then it automatically flows through to each of the downstream systems at a defined time. So typically that's a full sync every day and a delta sync every 15 minutes to half an hour. So if you think of a user that's put it into an SMS, how long does it actually take you to then get that piece of that data from enrollments, configure all the mailboxes, etc., licenses, Active Directory users, all that sort of stuff? It's actually fairly lengthy period. We can reduce this down to basically as soon as it gets in the SMS, between 15 minutes and half an hour, that user is provisioned and licensed and ready to go. Again, it remains in synchronization across all those systems. So if the change is made at the top, it flows through, etc. So as long as we're getting clean data and from the top, it will flow that through to all the other systems. So what school management systems do we support? So as I mentioned at the top, TAS is a big one for us that we see a lot of. Maze is a few schools here and there run it. Synergetic's got a large following as well, and we've actually got some customers that are still on SAS, which is an older school management system. But effectively, we can use anything that uses SQL. So we don't actually look at we don't write back to the school management system. So that's be very clear about that. We don't actually. We won't write anything back to it because typically the TAS or the school management system has it's really, that's what it's designed to do. So if you use the TAS interface to enter things in, we will take a view of that data. So we'll have a separate view, which is effectively a read-only view of that data, and we can use that to pull into our platform. So we will never access the original data or write anything back to it. We'll take a SQL view read of that data and use that. So the building blocks is MIM, so the Microsoft Identity Manager 2016. So it can run as a virtualized service, either on premise or in a data center or even Azure. We typically see most customers would have Office 365 and Azure Active Directory as a minimum that want to orchestrate a lot of these processes. We need a data source, so we need your school management system. That's going to be our single source of truth. We'll then have connectors that go off to different systems. So there'll be a connector for Active Directory, there is a connector for Office 365, there's a connector for, it might be some other application that we would need to push data into. We would configure those. And then we need to define the triggers or events. So what happens if we see new data in this metaverse? What are we going to do with it? And then effectively automate that process, that action that is going to occur at that point. So I am a bit sick of PowerPoint now, so I'm just going to stop sharing, and I'm just going to show you the provisioning demo. So what we have is a data source that we have built. So I'll just give that a second to come through on people's screens. So you can see that now. So it's effectively just a really basic SQL database. So I have a student ID or a employee ID. I have a first name, last name, email, account name, a phone number. This is all random data. We haven't taken any data out of the school. I've got a job title, an employee type, and an employee status. So this might be, obviously tasks and the school management systems look very different. So this is just a very basic data set that we're using to illustrate what we can do. So we have configured a workflow to take the data out of this SQL view, and it actually writes it into this OU here, if you can see. So we have a parent, a student, and a teacher OU. So again, very basic, but you can see basically what's happening. So I can then add new users, or say for example, we've got Leonard Franklin here. He's no longer a drama teacher. Obviously, we don't advocate going into the database and modifying this stuff manually. This would be done through a task interface or a synergetic interface or whatever the case may be. So we will then change Leonard from a drama teacher. We're going to take him into mathematics teacher. So once I've written that data into my database, I'm going to kick off a manual sync of this data. So again, this would be an automated process. You wouldn't need to do this. It would run every 15 minutes to do this. But you can see that it's run the sync. So once that's done, I can go into refresh my Active Directory user, and his title's been updated to mathematics teacher. So you can see this as an automated basis. This would be orchestrated from tasks. They would write the data into tasks. Our platform takes the updated data from tasks and then orchestrates that across the different services and platforms that we need to do. So let me just have a look. Lance got a question. Where was I? Let me just go back here, sorry. Just going to go back to my web, back to my PowerPoint. So the next demo I was going to show was our Skype for Business integration. So I'm just going to I'll just stop sharing again. Let's make sure that comes through to everyone. Yeah, you can see my screen now. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go into our Microsoft our map portal. So my map portal is where I can do kick off a lot of tasks from MIM if I want to have a look at that. I'm just going to wait for it to catch up. So I'm just going to search for my username here, and I can click on there. So it's found my user account. As I can see here, it's actually got all my Active Directory attributes, so I've pulled a lot of these back into the metaverse. So it's got my display name, all that other kind of stuff. I've got a tab here called Skype for Business. So at the moment, I have no forwarding enabled, so this wouldn't matter so much to people that don't run Skype for Business. But if you are running Skype for Business, as I know a number of you are, this will make sense to you. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm just going to, so you can see what happens on my phone. So you can see my Air server there. I'm just going to bring up my Skype for Business client here so you can see what happens. So at the moment, I'm going to I'm working this as myself, but for example, you would be able to orchestrate Skype for Business features on behalf of someone else. So if you had someone leaving for the day, or someone that was, works part-time, or whatever the case may be, you can actually go in there and manipulate a lot of their Skype for Business settings based on who they are and what they need to do. So I'm going to forward my forward my extension to my mobile, and then I'm just going to click OK and submit that to the portal. And what it'll actually do is it'll actually go through here. Whoops, where am I going? Oops, lost. So I should be able to get a text message in a second. It's because I'm presenting. It's missed conversation. So you can see on my Skype for Business client, it's saying calls are being forwarded to my mobile, and I actually got an SMS. So it's by design. It'll actually SMS me to say your work phone, your business number has been forwarded to your mobile. So if I change it to forward to voicemail, I wouldn't get the SMS because there's no reason to tell me if I'm out of the office that my phone's been forwarded to voicemail. Let's turn that off. So again, pretty cool. We can do that on behalf of someone else. The next demo I was going to show was the parent one-time password portal reset. So this is the ability for someone to reset their password based on some criteria that you have set as part of the provisioning process. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to jump into our password reset portal. So this is what it would look like. You can brand it as your school. You can brand it as whatever the case may be. You can change the look and feel of this. But I'm actually just going to reset my password. So my alter ego is teacher test 01. So what it's actually going to do is it's going to go off and find my account. And what we've configured as a basic demo is it's going to send me a security code. So this is sent to the email address that was provisioned or registered when you first created the parent account, for example. So I'm actually just going to jump back into my email, and I can see I have the security code just arrived, 996661. So I put that in. And now I have two choices. I can either unlock my account, keep my current password, which maybe they do know it, but their account's locked out, or I can set my new password. So I'm just going to set that. Done. So that parent can now log into all the relevant systems based on their password. So they've had no interaction with IT. We've had a customer set this. This is basically what their school looks like. So when the email comes to the user, they've actually had a really nice job at presenting that to the user. So it's got the security code there. This is also basically what when a parent is provisioned, this is what it would look like. So this is a really nice looking email, tells you about the school, where you need to go, here's the passwords, here's the etc, etc. So you can actually have no initial password, and then they actually set their password for the first time by themselves. So again, really nice looking thing, gives you all the relevant information, and it's all sent from our portal. Cool. The next one is the final demo. Hopefully this is resonating. I can't see the IM, but hopefully this is resonating with people that have challenges in their environment, and hopefully this can assist. But the next one is timetable sync. So this is a big one for schools that want to appear, want to have their timetables present in Outlook. So if I just jump onto my calendar, you can see I've got some test users here. I've got student test 01 and teacher test 10. They've got no appointments in their calendar. They've got no classes. They don't know what they're doing. Very new environment. So if I can go back into my portal, again, this would be automated. You would not need to go and do this, but for the purposes of what we're showing today, this will suffice. So I know that student test 01 and teacher test 10 are actually in year 8 English. So one's obviously the teacher, one's a student. So they are members of this security group, which is based on it could be dynamic data based on their membership of being enrolled in English, year 8 English. So I actually just click this provision lesson button. I can see I've put some lesson times, so we can have a start and end duration as well as a period duration there. So I've just put in some dummy dates in there as well. So once I kick this off, I'm just going to submit that. So if I jump back to my calendar invite, this in the background is going off to Office 365. We use Office 365 for all our collaboration and email. So this is actually not talking to an on-premise Exchange server. It's going off and kicking off those calendar entries. You can see them flowing into the calendars now. So that would happen on a programmatic basis. So the user then syncs their mobile device, whether it's an iPhone, a mobile device, a Windows tablet with Outlook. They can actually have an accurate calendar, all automated based on their subject membership. So if that doesn't blow your socks off, then I don't know what will. Yeah, I think that that's been in demand from a lot of schools. So we are doing a lot of that at the moment. So Tim didn't see it. Tim, we might set up a second session, maybe if you have missed some of those, and go through it again. So in terms of deployment, we really have two options. So there's an on-premise deployment, and that can either consist of on-premises in your actual school data centers, or hosted in Azure. So we've got a couple of customers that are actually running this entire platform in Azure itself. So has better uptime and better resiliency than their school infrastructure. And we present that as a fixed price for the project. We also thoroughly recommend that you do a managed service post-project. And the reason why that is because once this is implemented, it is a very important part of the infrastructure and the fabric of the school. So once you're relying on this to automate a lot of those processes, you need to keep it healthy. You need to keep it, make sure the SQL database isn't filling up, all that kind of stuff, because it's actually fulfilling a really critical component of the school in terms of automating a lot of those back-end processes. So we recommend that you do some kind of managed service to keep it healthy. At this point in time, there's 3 connectors. So we do a timetable sync, for example, the parent one-time password portal, an Active Directory. We can extend that based on your requirements and what other systems you want to talk to. What we do recommend for most of our customers is to take it from us as a service. So we deploy it, we manage it, we keep it healthy. We do it as a fixed price per month as a service. It's got a full monitoring workload, so we know about issues typically before you do. And then we also can bundle that in with proactive consulting. So, for example, it might be we do one new workflow a month based on your criteria and what new system you want this solution to connect to. So there's a couple of different options in terms of deployment. So what we're going to do is happy to offer to all the people that jumped on today is we're happy to set up a 30-minute call with one of our automation consultants just to talk through your SMS, talk through enrollment processes, all that kind of stuff that you do today, and where this solution could potentially help you. And we'll show you what's possible and what we've seen with other schools and what results other schools are seeing. And we can also give you a report based on, well, we've measured this process is taking X amount of time, extrapolate that out based on number of students and turnover and rollover and all that kind of stuff. And we can actually give you a figure that you can take to your business manager or your CFO and say, we're actually spending $92,000 a year based, doing managing identity. I want to spend, based on your deployment, X on this deployment, and I'm going to get an ROI in Y. So there's some really hard data that you can actually attribute to this. So we're happy to sort of explore that further. So if you want to reply to my email that I sent you in terms of the calendar invite, or I'm going to jump on our website, that's basically it. We've got a bunch of customers all across the Eastern Seaboard and SA and WA. We can put you in touch with a local school that you might want to ask questions about. and go from there. But if our details are up on the website, our Twitter and my personal Twitter, if you like following people on Twitter, I pretty much tweet about Microsoft, Lego, Formula One. So if you like those three things, we'll get along fine. And yeah, so I'm going to sort of bring the content to a close now, but I'm happy we've got some guys from our team, our identity team, on the call now. So if you've got any weird, wacky, wonderful questions that you want to pose, then feel free to jump on the IM window and we'll go for it. So Lance had a question about guarding against the corruption of the SMS database or a failure of the query connection. Can you roll back the AD changes or delete protect the users? I don't know off the top of my head to that one. Nick might be able to answer that one.
Yeah, hi everyone. So there's a couple of different ways that MIM would actually guard itself against that type of data loss. If there was an actual issue with the database and it couldn't connect, it would just read it as basically no change. So nothing could happen. Nothing could update, obviously, if your SMS system was down, but it wouldn't go ahead and start deleting users. If incorrect data was entered into the SMS, there are quite a lot of filters and constraints based around the data types. So it's not going to go and start changing again a lot of the attributes if it was random data. It's very hard to protect against someone's name getting changed with into another name, but in general, we just within the actual database, without having to dig or do any restores, you can actually find all the changes for the last 3 weeks that have been made to AD, so they can be exported and recommitted to Active Directory as well. So it's actually very useful because you can see when any attribute was changed and which data source it came from. So you get a very nice sort of overview of your user's identity, and say we can actually go back, see what it was before, and restore it.
For those of you that can't see the IM window, I did also say we can actually color code the lesson times as well. So if you have people that want, like different colors for different subjects, then you can actually color code the timetabling that flows through to Outlook as well. Does anyone have any other questions in the IM window, or if it's a really long question, I'm happy to take off mute and you can chat, or feedback, anything? You're all gone to the business manager and doing up the project brief right now? Okay, well, we might leave the call there unless anyone has any other things. You've got my email address and you've got the data there. If you want to get in touch to set up that session, one of our guys, Laz or Richard, might reach out and see if you're interested in that 30-minute consult around automation, and we can go from there. But thanks for taking the time, and let you get back to your day.